Okay, so this week is list view. List view is not a layout, right? View, again, the term view here refers to the components or controls that are visible in the screen. Okay, so list view is one of them, just like text views and buttons and edit views and so forth. So here is the adaptive view. It also mentioned in the book in chapter 7. That is a superclass of these different views: the list view, grid view, spinner, and gallery, and and probably a few others. Okay, so we've used before, if you remember way back in the first week, we learned how to create a very simple spinner view where we select different kinds of items like milk and things like that, and we display to the view, right? That's an example of that view. And then, of course, list view is something that's more popular and more powerful because you're able to, display a collection of items in the view. And of course, you can set them to be scrollable too if you have a lot of items. So we look at that. And the reason why adaptive view is here is because the adaptive view class is really responsible for, it's like the middle person that it's interacting with the actual view and source code. So because they're so common that you don't need to have a separate class for this. So just use adaptive view. Depending on what type of view you add to the adapter, you can access the actual source code, and then it talks to the actual view, which is the XML, the layout. Okay, here I just showed you here, pull directly from the book, just show you a way to bind data from a non-static data. Okay, so the items that we use so far, every time we add items to the XML file, all of those are static data, okay, static content, which means they cannot be changed, indirectly, or even directly. You cannot change, you cannot override those XML files. Whatever is set is set. And of course, you can override the content programmatically, once the program is running and during runtime. But what's it said in those XML files are those are just pretty much just static data. Okay, so if you want to generate non-static content like arrays or lists of other data that are generated throughout your program, then those dynamic data needs to be created in the source code, and then they have to be added to your view programmatically. And then, just an example here to show you the order or how data are added to the list view in the layout. Okay, so the list view is the component. The strings here example is an array or a list of some resources, some data. To bind these data to the list view, you have to go through the adapter. Okay, same thing with spinner and others as well. They go through the adapter, and then it talks back and forth like that. And here again, I just pulled from the book, just telling you that something like this, based on the, I guess, the level of your app, these activities, usually you can fill a list in your list view using static data, which we can do. We haven't done all the time in the XML file. And then you can generate, dynamic content using the source code from Java as well. And the look and feel is almost like unnoticeable. It's the same. When you build an app in Android, I mean, not just Android, I think pretty much anything you want to do, like an application or a web page, right? You organize your data in certain ways, certain hierarchy. So this is an example of that. And here, maybe, something is quite static, like your main activity, your main program, your landing page, if you will. And then you have these are like links or pages that are have different activities, right? So if these are known and these are constant, then you can list them in the static list in the XML file. Same thing here. This could be dynamic or it could be static. But as you go deeper into your program, then chances are you're going to have some, dynamic content, right? You can delete, add, remove to your list. If you want that to be the situation, then it's preferred to have a dynamic list. Okay, you have more control of that than the static list here. And then usually, if you follow this pattern, or if you go to any website, especially like e-commerce sites, you have a page that will display the details of that particular product or item. I mean, here I'm talking about fruits, could have been vegetables, could be drinks, it could have been, employees' information, right? So each employee, their information, it follows the very same activity. So this is like the lowest level in this category. By now, I think you should know how to load different activities using the intent. So, and also how to pass data to another activity through the intent, right? And that's exactly what you do here, okay? You can, so since we know how to do that, now we're gonna get a little bit deeper into a more complex applications here. So without further ado, I'm gonna go and create a new project in here. I'll just create the empty activity just like usual. And I'm going to call this one here ListView activity. Okay, this would be like the main activity here. So, and again, you can call it what you want. I call it ListView, but that's the project name. So here's the main activity as usual, as default. Now, if you want to also follow along, then I want to share this with you first. I'm going to drop this in the chat, some image files that you can use. If you downloaded these sources from the Blackboard, unzip it, and what you should see is just 4 images. And what we want to do is we're going to add those into the resources file in here, okay? So go into resource here, and inside the drawable, we're going to add those 4 images in here. And you can, I think you can just drag it in if you want. Let me see if I can do that. Okay, so if I open that file, you can drag these 4 images directly to that drawable folder here. Create this move, but you can go in here. And if you want to make a copy, I think, yeah, it's a move. So I'm okay with that. Okay, so now they should be added to your drawable folder. Now this folder here contains graphics or XML files. These are resources to load other graphics. You cannot put like other subdirectories in here, as far as I know. Okay, so these are the images I'm going to use. And usually when you build like an app that requires like different resolutions for different devices, you're going to have different drawable in different versions of data, like in the map here, right? We have the launcher, you have, different graphics, different resolutions. So you will put in here at a certain size, and it will grab those certain size. So you want to provide one for, this one may be for the, high resolution, a smaller type, and so on. So, but for now, for us, we're just gonna have one type. Okay, so these names here are the actual names here will be the actual will be mapped to an ID that Android Studio manages, or in this case, the Gradle would manage it for you. And so when you access these names, you will access through the r.drawable. The name of these files. It's not the actual file name, but it uses the name as the ID field. And what it is it's against a 10-digit number unique ID that maps directly to each of these graphics. Okay, so that is pretty much done. So in here, again, just want to show you, if I go to like r.drawable, you see the names here, right? And these are the IDs that they are assigned to. I think, well, this is like 6 digits, which is okay, but from 6 to like 10 digits long. So when you grab this cappuccino, then it's the name of the file, and also it'll give you a preview, but this is actually assigned to an ID, an integer ID, okay? So you can get these references here. Okay, so we're gonna have an activity from the main here, going to gonna add a list view to list the 3 or 4 drinks in here, I think 3 drinks. And then we're gonna link each of those to their particular activity. So to create classes in Java, you can just right click on here anywhere in your Java folder and just go and then click new Java class. We call it drink. Okay, hit enter, and we added a drink class in here. And make sure it is in the same package, then they should be visible across all your pages. Now, this class is just a standard class to store some data. Of course, you also have access to all the things in here too, but this is just, the purpose is to hold an object of drink. For the adapter to work, you have to create a class of, a drink or employee or whatever it is, okay? Because it requires that as an object when you pass to the adapter file you'll see later. So in here, we're going to create those 3 fields, and the fields are really just the name of the drink, the description, and the image sort. So we can make these private fields. Usually they are private fields, okay? And then the thing for the description and private for the resources are in, okay? So just put here AMG resource ID. Okay, that's what they'll be pointing to, like r.global.cappuccino and so on. And then you need to create an object of itself. The reason why you do that here, also in the book does it, is also to allow this object or this array of drinks to be portable across all different activities. Because you have to make these static. If you don't, then you have to find a way to pass those data over to the other activity, because objects are not transportable, okay? Are not portable across different Java files. Then you will have to make, you have to serialize those objects into their string or content, and then unserialize them back when you use it. And that takes a lot of effort to do that. So Android programming, it's easier to make it static, okay? So I'll make it private so you can see why is it private. And then the drink is a drink class. It's an array, right? It's the square bracket, just like C#. The name of the array will be drinks. And then I'm going to assign this to a function. Maybe I'll call it drink create drinks. Okay, this is a function. It will be inside this class itself. And if you just click on it, hover it will say, do you want to create this method? And just say yes. And so it creates that for you. It will return the drinks array here for you as well. All right, so in the drinks, we're going to create a new list of 3 drinks. So you could do something like, I'm going to return the drink back, right? So you can do a drink. Basically, I'm redeclaring this again because I'm going to create a new drinks. This is a local drinks. And I'll put here a new drink. You can new drink, or you can do just essentially like this. Okay, you can do right away like that. And each of these will be a new drink. And then the new drink will have, what does it have? Well, it has the name, the description, and the resource ID, right? So if you want to set it this way, then you want to create a constructor for that. So let's do one first. The constructor will be the public drink. And then here will be the string name, the same name, string description, and then image resource here, okay? And down here, I'm gonna do something really quick. Down here, right click on it and go to the generate menu and choose the getter and setter. It will list all the fields that you created here, up here. And then the one you want to create for are pretty much all of them, because we have a drinks and so on. So I'm going to just do all of them. So just use the shift key and select all of them. And click OK. And so what you're going to get is your setters and getters, okay? So in C# is like properties. So you can get those back and forth. Okay, so I have those data to set my data. So my constructor, when I pass in the drinks, right, you can set them up. So I'm going to say this dot set the description. It comes first, it doesn't matter. I just hit the tab key. Inside here is the description. So you type that and hit tab. Okay. Makes the code faster. Next will be, I want to set it to the name and so on. Set name, tab, and then type in name, tab. So basically it's setting these information here to build my drinks. So that's my constructor. And then when I build my drinks in line 18 here, I'm going to pass them to these fields, right? The first drink is the latte. You can create variables and another list of, arrays, but we just add directly here. So the first is the name of the drink is the latte. The second here is the description. I'm just going to put here very simple, okay? Hot latte. That's the description. I know it's short, but it's okay. The last is the ID. The resource ID is going to be the image ID. So that's going to be the R dot scrollable. Oops. Dot latte. That is the image ID. We're going to map to this ID here. And that's my first drink. So put a comma, go to the next drink. So same thing, new drink. This would be the cappuccino. I'll put here bitter drink. I don't know, you put whatever you want. It is bitter. And then the ID will be same, r.drawable dot cappuccino. And let me minimize my. So that's my second drink. And then the third one is the filter drink. Filter coffee. Let's say a freshly brewed coffee. And then r.drawable dot filter. And then finally down here, we have to return it, right? Return it back. So return the drinks. Actually, I have an error here. I forgot about this one. Why is, yeah, I can't put this semicolon over here. And then a semicolon at the end of that statement. Okay. So all I'm doing is I'm using a function to create my drinks. I mean, other ways you could do that, or make it so it's reusable. Okay, that, or you can just copy all of this. The book does it this way. The book does it like that. Okay, either way. So and just clean it this way for me. And then the last function you want to do here is a function called toString. Okay, toString is a global function that is for the object, and you can override that function. So they will print the name of this string, and you can print all these information you want, but we just want the name. And the reason why is because when we pass this string to the adapter is going to call this function automatically to display the name to the view. Okay, if you don't have it, it's not going to work. Okay, so here, if you just type the name toString and then enter, and then you should get something like this. All you want here is that all this return, you just want to return the name. Okay, so you can delete all this stuff here, return just the name. That's all we want. In overriding, we're overriding the parent's function. This one is done. And now we're going to go to the main activity over here. And let's build our view. Okay. So over here, the layout, main activity. And we're going to use the linear layout. It's just easier that way. And let me close my source code to have more space in here. Okay, so I'm going to do a right click in here and convert to a linear view, linear layout, I'm sorry. And this text view here, I want to delete it. I don't need this one. Just empty list view. Make sure the orientation is also set to vertical. If you don't, I believe it's like maybe horizontal, I can see by default. Okay, so you can just go here, click on it, and then go to orientation over here on the common attributes and change it to the vertical. And I think that's all we need for this linear layout. So next, let's add the, I'm going to add an image to the logo goes on the top. So add the image view right here, drag it put here at the top. It's going to prompt for an image. It doesn't really matter, but the one that we want is the logo. So if you can scroll and find it, you will see the one that says Starbucks logo here, right? Take that and just click OK. Okay. And you can resize this, you know, however you want it. Maybe make it big, small, doesn't matter. It's up to you. So that's the logo here. The next one is the view. List view is listed under the legacy because these are kind of old. Eventually, I'm pretty sure this is going to be phased out. So the list view is the older one. The newer one is actually, I think they will replace this with what's called the recycler view. As you can see, these look very similar. You don't have to do this, but you can drag it here, you see that it looks just like the other one. Okay, similar. So maybe eventually it's gonna phase out, but for now it's still being used. So list view under legacy, drag it, put it here, and you will see that it takes entire view here. You can resize this, of course. However, many you resize here does affect the layout, the output, because if you resize it, you'll notice that if you click on it, it tells you over here on the right side of the layout, the height has been adjusted, right, to whatever where you drop. So I'm showing 4 views here, 4 items, and 3 items, and so on. And if you want this view to be scrollable, then you can change that as well. Change the scroll, add a scroll bar. It's kind of on the right side here, and you adjust that, and then make it, you can adjust the size of the scroll bar if you want to. Like if you scroll down, sometimes it's really hard to find these. So the easiest way is just to search it right here. Okay, search for like scroll, and you will see that you have all your scroll bar down here. The type, the style, the size of the scroll bar is the thickness of the scroll bar. So it's now default to 4. If you make it really big, it shows up like for example for like 20. As you can see, the thickness shows up here, right? It's really thick. Okay, that's if you have more items than this can hold. But for now, I think it doesn't matter. We only 3, so you can make it 3 or 4 as it should hold for now. So let's give it an ID and the ID here. And you see that sometimes it's easier in the code, okay? Doing the view here is really slow because you have to go and find it and scroll up and down like this. So I would recommend either the code or split it. Split it, and I don't need this column here. You can turn this off. Okay, split it, and then you can type your code here. It's much faster. So once I select the list view in here, just hit enter and type ID, and then just enter, right? It's faster this way. So the ID here will be, I guess we call it LST, item, or whatever it is, but LST item, I guess that would be fine. And then we have to get the source. What is the source coming from? Well, to add a source, first. Okay, so let's go and open the string. The values of here, the string area. And this is where you create your static content. Okay. So here will be like the you can array. It's going to be string. You can put string array. You have a couple options: string array, int array, and then or just array itself. It doesn't matter. Okay. So since everything's going to be string, you can put a string array here. Put here maybe like I don't know, copy. I'll just put yeah, copy options or named. I would want to call it. Actually, no, it's not copy and drag. Maybe just options. So you can add 3 items, and one of them is just the drinks. The other I don't really care. Okay, you just press Control D shortcut. You can add 3 or 4, doesn't matter. But we use 3 just in the book. You can put like food here, you know, cars. I don't care. Okay. We just focus on the drinks only. So from the string array or the strings, and then the options give you these 3 lists. These are static data. And we're going to add this static data to the layout over here. So right in here, right? Android. You can type the array the list. Where's it at? No, entry, sorry, entry, yeah, or Android entries. And that's gonna be from the add string. Yep, string, and then the we're gonna do wrong. Array. Oh, forgot how to do this. Array options. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. So array options is the one that we have. And you see that it doesn't show up here in the view, but it's mapped to that list view, and it should grab this option from the string list. So for now, you know, let's run and see if this works. Okay. So make sure there are no errors. I'm going to build it and run it, and I want to see if those lists are showing up in the app. Hopefully they show up. Okay, so you can see here, right? Even though I show 4 or 5 items here, only show 3 here. Okay, so the drinks, and then these are clickable because they're link. Okay, so we get that done. This is the main view, and notice the title says list view activity, right? It's kind of ugly. I don't want that. You want to call it something else. So now the next thing is when you click on the drinks or the food or the cars, right? It's supposed to load the next activity that is corresponding to this drink or food or card. Okay. So before we do that, we're going to create those activities first. And I'm not going to do all of them. So I'm just going to do, well, why not? Just add them here anyway. So just go into Java again, right click and add new activities. So add 3 of them. Okay, 3 empty activity. And the first one is going to be called the drinks. You can call like in the book, it's called drinks category activity. And then just hit enter. And you can create 2 more for the other one, like food and call it cars. It doesn't really matter, but create that anyway. So here, oops, not Java. Right click, new activity, empty activity, and we'll call this one here just food activity. Hit enter. And one more for the cars activity. Okay. So we have those, placeholders, and then when we navigate, it's going to load those information. Now it's going to take a little time to, index these for you. But let's go back to the main activity again. Okay, we're still in the main activity. And if you want to change the title of your screen, your title of your device here, like it says list view activity, if you don't like that, you can set it by calling this function called set title in the create function here. This is set title, and just give it a name. So here I could say maybe main page or whatever it is, right? That will replace this ugly list view activity. So that will be the title of that activity. Okay, so next we need to establish a reference to this list view, right? So just like before, you can create a list view. Let me go ahead and then close this right here. So list view, and we'll call it, again, just list view, that's fine. And import this. Let's say equal to the find view by ID, can hit tab, r.id dot, and I don't think I have a name for mine yet. Yeah, I forgot to have a name for my view. Let's see, the activity main. Let's close these. I don't need this, the main activity over here. I thought I did. Yeah, it's called list view, list item. Yeah, okay, maybe I just missed it. So it'll be just that. Okay, not visible. Let's check it again. It should be in here. Why is it not readable here? It's this item. No, that's weird. Anybody have any issue with this? Are you able to get your ID? Because mine doesn't show up.
It showed up for me, no problem.
Yeah, it should show up because you have a name that just lists item too.
I have mine at LST underscore item and it worked.
Yeah. Well, let's change that then. Fine. Unless it has a conflict with the others, but that was weird. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. Maybe it doesn't like the list then. I guess you learn as you go. Okay, so then we need to then cast this back to the list view. Okay, so I skipped that, but you always have to do this. And the reason why for this, we do this because this function here, this function of this class, it takes an object. Okay, so when it comes back, it doesn't know what type it is. So you have to cast it every time. Okay, that's why you see this all the time here. If it's a string, you put a string and so on. Okay, so we got the view. That's the reference, and that's all we need for that one. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set an event listener, okay, to list view. So list view here, that the listener will be, you can do it in a couple of ways, okay? The book does it differently. The book does it by creating the adapter separately, and then you load it as a callback function, okay? Usually that's okay, but I would prefer just to put it inside the entire using the inner anonymous class. and you see that's quick comment as well. So the list view dot set, you set on the item. So depending on the views that you use, they have their own built-in function associated with those. So if it's a list view, usually it's the item click listener. If it's a button, it would be just on click listener, right? A keyboard will on click press something listener like that. So this is the item click listener. If you again just tab on it, and then what are we listening to? We're listening to the adapter. So it'll be the new adapter. The first one here. If you type new A, and they should show up adapter here. And just if you hit tab again, it will complete that for you. Okay. So this is the callback function in here. I know it's a class. Looks like a class here. It's an interface. But then here, this is the callback function. Inside here, it invokes a function call on item click. This is the handler. So this is the listener. This is, you set the listener, you register listener to a item click event. And then when this item's clicked, it adds some stuff. It grabs some information here to this function so you can use it in your code. Okay, the adapter view here, you notice has a bracket in front. Okay, this is some really advanced stuff. If you're not familiar with generics, then it means it's a class here. It takes a wildcard of any type. Okay, the question of any type, meaning like it could be drinks, could be dogs, cats, doesn't matter. In this case, it'd be view, right? And then this is just a variable name called parent. They just said that it doesn't matter, called ABC, doesn't matter, doesn't care, right? So we don't really use this parent, but you have to satisfy these function requirement. So the view here is the actual view, which will actually map to the actual view, which is the list view here. The position is the position of these items here. Okay, which when I click here, it'll be the position will be based on the index. So these two are kind of similar in a way. So this is position 0 for drinks, 1, and then 2 for food, 3 for car. So it will be stored inside this variable here and also ID here as well. They are kind of similar. And then you have information to those things there, so you know which one to access. Okay, so that is by using, this is called the inner anonymous class. If you hear this term, that's what this means in Java. Okay, you create a function. This is a class. So this is a separate class, different space. So the space in here really is not the same as here. It's a little bit weird, but that's how it is. Okay. So now, once we get in here, then we have access to those information. And the ID here will be based on what it is. So how do you know which one is selected, right? So you can do an if statements, you can do a switch, which is really quite common. A switch would be better. So here you would say something like switch. What am I switching? Something here, right? You can test with something. So you can test the check for, I guess my option will be you can check for the name of those lists. If the name matches the drinks, then go to the drinks page. Food, go to the food page, and so on. So how do you get these names here? Okay, the name has been selected. And a couple of ways to do that. One way is you can do something like this. Before you do the switch, you can grab the name by going through the list view items here. Okay, so here, for example, I'm going to say the string of the name, maybe item name, assigned with, I want to return a string. Okay, here, go through that list, the list right here. Through that list called list view, it's a function called get item at position. Get item at position right here. It returns an object, but really it's a function that returns the object where you can get the name of that string, and we convert the string assigned to the name itself. So the position is, which one is it? How do I know? Is this one here? Okay, that's the position that's been selected. It's been returned to this function. You can use that. So the currently selected name of that position, convert to a string, assign it to a name. And I can switch the item name, right? Then if that name is a strings, so again, this is a case sensitive, so make sure they match exactly how you named it in your code. If you don't care about case sensitive stuff, then you put this into all uppercase or all lowercase. Okay, so you could do like 2 lowercase like that, if that's the case. So that will only deal with lowercase, right? So it's up to you how you do this. Okay, so this may make code shorter. I just put a name here, and I'll match exactly what I have in my file. If that's the case, then I'm going to create the intent and load, right, the page. So you would do something like intent. This is something we've been doing so far. Intent is equal to new intent. Okay, and let's import the intent class. The first one is the current context. Now, notice we're inside another class. This is a separate class. Okay, that's why you can't just put this in here. If you do that, it's in the wrong context. You have to go to the main activity context out here. So if you're using this method, you have to put the main activity dot this. If you move this out, if you move the entire thing out into a separate function or another variable, then you can just say this, because that will be inside the main content context. Okay, so that's that. And then where are we going? We're going to go to the drinks activity category, right? Dot class. That's the destination. And then we need to go ahead and initiate the start activity. We pass to this activity the intent. Okay, so it'll be the same for the other two, and then we'll make sure you break that. So the next two will be the same. You just, copy this and then change this to that type. So you can do this and put it here, and this will be like the food, and then go to the food activity dot class. But you notice that it says intent has already been defined here, or it's out of scope or something. I already added here, so I can do it again and again, right? And this is fine, it's really short. So, but you can see the redundancy here. For better coding purposes, you want to move this to another function. So out here, let me collapse this. Okay, this is out here. You want to create a function to run that activity, because it's the same thing. So let me go back here again, right? This part will be the same as this and as the other one. If you have 10 of them, they're all the same. The only difference is just the destination is different. So what you can do is down here, you can create a function here called, maybe it's a void. You can say load activity. Okay, I'm going to pass in. So all of these are the same. Again, the only thing is different is just this class. It's a class type. So in here, you can pass in here the class. And I can call it CLS, or I call it activity. Doesn't matter, it's just a variable name. And then I will copy this line here and put it in here. And then just replace the last one here with the activity. Or you can call it destination, doesn't matter, that's fine too. Then this whole thing can be just called load activity. What am I loading? The strengths category activity dot class. So your code is cleaner, leaner, save you a couple lines of code, and it's easier to manage. The food will be load activity, food activity.class. And the same down here for the other one. So I'm going to copy and paste this right down here. This is the, I have the cars, so cars activity.class. Okay. Probably usability is the key, folks. So I think I'll pass my our break time. So why don't we take a 5-minute break and we'll come back, okay? We'll come back at 9:05. And I'll hang around. So if you are here and ask a question, that's fine too. I'll see you guys back at 5. I'll pause the recording now. All right, so now we have this, ready to go, and we have to check and make sure it's working, right? So let's save this and let's see if it will take us to those pages. But before I do that, I'm going to copy this set title and add to the other ones, like the drinks category. Right in here, I'm going to put here, just say drinks category. Okay. We're here. Add it to the food as well, just so we know. I guess. And then one for the cars. Okay, there is something to show there. So let's run this app and see if responds to our clicks. We run the whole thing. And I'll put it here. All right, so if we click on drinks, okay, you see that it does load to the drinks category page. And to go back, we don't have a button, so just click the back button down here and the device. On the device down here at the bottom, takes you back. Go to food. As you can see, it goes to food and goes to cars. Okay, so pretty simple using a switch case like this. I think you already kind of did this before. So that part is pretty much done. And then the next thing is we're going to go to the drinks page and kind of recreate like what we see here again. But this time we're going to do it dynamically using code, right? So on the drinks page, we need to go ahead and set up that layout on the drinks page. So let's do that first. The drinks category XML file. And again, just convert this to a linear layout. It's easier to manage that way. Change the orientation to vertical. Okay. Kind of like before, we're going to just add a list view here. Okay, we don't have image. You can put image too you want, but I'm just gonna put a list view again. So the legacy list view added here, and I'm gonna give this an ID. ID will be just LST drinks, the drink types. And then that's all we have. Okay, so we're not gonna have the data come in because the data will be generated automatically in the code. So the source code will look just like that. And once we map to this view, we can populate this view with the data from the database. I mean, from the, well, in this case, it'd be the drink Java file. Okay. So in the drink category activity file in here is what we need to do a couple of things. Well, first thing is we set the reference to that list view again. It's going to be the same. It could be a list view. Coming from defined by ID or then ID.lst drinks. So we got our reference. And then now we need to do two things. Okay, the first thing is populate the list view. And then we'll do the add event. Okay, two things. So to populate the list from the code, again, you have to call the adapter, okay? So we're gonna say list view, again, guys, I don't remember all this, my heart. You just have to do a lot of practice and it'll come. But otherwise, write it down somewhere and then, use as a reference and so on. But you're gonna do is set the adapter. You're gonna set it, and then inside here is the adapter to set up the list. And here you create a new object. Again, the array adapter, it knows already what you're expecting, okay? So it's an array adapter. Again, if you type new and type A shows that one, just click on it or just hit the tab key. And then it asks you what type of item are you gonna add to the adapter. So in the bracket, this is how we know what we want. So we don't want to put a question mark, okay? We know exactly what we want. We want to put the drink class in here. I mean, this adapter will take the drink object. This is the drink file, right? Then inside here, this function here, we're going to add 4 things. Actually, no, 3 things. Yeah, it has mainly just 3 things. There are other options, but the one that we need just 3 things. The first one we need is the current context. Again, it'll be this file, the drinks cat this. Okay, so drinks activity.this. This is the context, and I'll put here in a separate line so it's easier to see. Okay, that's the first item. The second item you need is the layout that you're going to use to generate the view. And you have a couple options. 2 of the most common ones are, it's called the simple list item 1 and simple list item 2. The one that we use is just the Android simple list item 1. And let me see if I type in simple. I'm not sure if it will be populate for me or not, but it's not. You have to underscore. Yeah, it doesn't recognize that. Okay, so you have to prepend the whole thing. Android R layout. Android R.layout. Simple view. Okay. This is something that is, created by the Android Studio, Android already. It existed already, so you don't have to create it for yourself. But it's a common one for list views. The 1 here, it's just a single list of items. The 2 means you have a subcategory. Okay, it's a little bit more complicated for this 2. For example, you might show something like drink, and then below that a little description or information about that drink. So the one just really simple item 1. And then the last is the data to populate this list. It's going to be coming from the drink, right? Our drink class has an object, has a function called drink. We want this one here. It's private, so you cannot call it directly. You have to go through the function called get drink. I think I have it down here somewhere. Okay, get drinks. This one we want to call. So you put here drink that get drinks. Oops. So you need those 3 things: the context, the type of view you want to render, and the data. As you can see, it's an object, right? You can't just put a I guess you can. It's just a list here, but it's an object. And this will happen behind the scene. What it would generate the list for you. Okay, so we can test now and see that if it works. Well, no, we have to add it to the list first. Here we did already. Yeah, it does it automatically for you. And you can run it and see if it's there. Okay, click on drinks. And then you see it's there, right? Add it to the list for you programmatically. And so because now it's in the code, you can go back and delete your list to add it dynamically as you go. You can add an option for the user to add more drinks. If you could add more drinks like you did before, like edit view, and they click adding to the view, and then you click submit, you keep adding to your drinks list, and this will grow, and you can add links to them as well. Okay. So this part is now done. The next thing is, again, a little bit less, just like before. When I click on latte, then I want to show the detailed information about that drink, latte drink, cappuccino, and so on. So this part is exactly the same as before. I mean, with one difference. Okay, so listener will be ListView again. Dot set on item, click listener, tab, new adaptive view on item, click tab. Okay. So you can see it looks just like before. So now again, but this time we are going to load the same view to display the information. So we're not going to go to different views. I mean, this is one view to display the same information for latte, cappuccino, and filter, so on. So that same view is this drink activity, the last one we have. So they're all going to share the same view. So therefore, we don't have to do the switch, right? On the main one, we have to, because drinks go to have 3 subcategories. Food might have more. Cars, they're all different. So you have 3 different categories, different classes. But in the drinks here, at this level, the next level down, just one file that would, contain the information about that particular drink. So here, then when we get the ID, we do the same thing as before. We need to go and create the intent. Just new intent. I'm going to go to from, again, this is the drink category activity this. Where we go next is the default, which is the last page. We call it drink activity. Did I create that one? I guess I didn't create it yet. Yeah, let's create one more file, which is the last page. So let's do that first. So again, over here, right click, add a new activity. This will be just the empty, and we'll call this the drink activity. This is the lowest class of, right? So there's no more category here. And yeah, hit OK, finish. So this is the destination. So while that's been generated, go back to the drink category one, right? So the destination will be the drink activity, that class. And since we only, call it once, we don't need to do the function like we did before, right? Previously, we created a function called low activity down here, right? You can copy and put it paste if you want, but we don't have to because it's only 2 lines. And then make sure you import the intent. And then we just start. Okay. So that should start the intent. So now when we reach the other side, when we get over here to the activity itself, let me close this food and cars activity here. When I get to the drink activity, okay, I need to load the drink from the drinks array. But how do I know which one to load? So for example, when I click on the latte, how do I know it's the latte? I need to show over here. If I click on cappuccino, how do I know that, right? So you have to pass over to this file the ID selected from here, right? So I have to pass it over to this file, and you can't put it in here. So we use something called the put extra. Remember that one? Intent put extra. So this is the one we need. The key and then the value is the integer. So you put here extra. The key would be the drink, and then the well, I call it drink ID, and then this is the actual ID itself or the position of that drink. So you can choose either one, ID or the position. I think it doesn't really matter. We can put the ID here. Okay. The only thing is that ID is the long position and it's the int. So it doesn't matter. I think if you put the long, then you want to cast this to an int like this, because when you get it back, when you get the data back from the drinks here, see this array, right? These are index. These are integer type X. Drinks are 0, drinks are 1, drinks are 2. This is the index. So when I get it back, I need to get the ID, but based on the index. So maybe it's better to choose position instead. Okay. It's the position of the index. It's already int. I don't have to care about conversion. So that's all I need. And this is why I mentioned earlier that you have to create your drink as a static. Okay. So you can access directly from the class .drinks or .getDrinks. If you don't use static, when you pass this data over, you have to serialize the drinks data, the array, into a serializable data. So and then you pass that over to the other side, and then when you get the data back, you have to call the serializable data to pull back and then rebuild the object again. Okay, so and then by doing that, it takes a little bit more effort because you have to go and go up here and it implements the serializable like that. Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna do it, but usually that's how you do it. You can't just pass object across the files. So either way is just to do that. Okay, so we pass the drink ID to the next file. And so this page here is pretty much done. If I click cappuccino, get the ID position for that drink, and then send it over. So when I get to the other side, the final page over here, I need to get the ID back, right? So how do we get the ID over here? Well, we get the ID by going to, it's an integer, so I can put int here, drink ID is equal to, I can call the function called get intent, okay, dot, you can see here it's a get a few things. Get, there are two ways to do this. You can go through the get extra, I'll show you both ways, and then get, the key is drink ID. Okay, this is the ID that we use here. I type it here as a string because there's only one. So this one here has to match the one that you sent over here. Okay, so the example in the exercise we did was we used a ID called user, right? The user name, remember that one? And I used a variable to do that, but you can if you want to. So actually that's pretty ideal, but for now it's okay. You create a variable up here in the global space somewhere, and it's going to be accessible, going to be the same on the other side. So we can get the ID, whatever that is, convert that to the ID. It'll be the int. So now this is the drink ID, or I should say index. That's one way. Another way is you can do it this way. Let me copy this. Well, yeah, int drink ID 2. Also this, you can go to the get intent as well. And you can say get int right here. Get int. Where is it at? I think there's a function called get integer. No, where is it at? Oh yeah, to get the extra, get int extra here. Okay, get int extra. So I know it's an integer, so I get int extra. There is a this is a get byte extra. There is a get string extra, right? Extra. So you can go to the int extra, and it takes two things. The first is the drink ID. The second is the default. Default meaning like if this drink ID was not there, then it's going to return and use this as the default instead. Oh, no, this is wrong. Just int extra, sorry. Okay, so the ID here, and you also provide a default. here is you have to have it. If you don't have it, it fails. Okay, this one will crash if it is not found. This one will always be okay because you always have a default 0, 1 of 0. So this way you don't have to test. So either one will work. And if it's an int already, actually you don't have to convert it because I know that I'm getting an int. This is an int. This is unknown. Okay. So either one. Let's put it here. Then finally, we had to go and build our view first. So go to the activity drink. This is the last page. Convert to the linear layout again. I keep using that, but you don't have to, by the way, okay? You can change to different layout, but usually this is easier if you have a list of items that way. The constraint layout is actually very powerful. It's if you haven't tried it yet, I highly recommend you go to the book, chapter 6, I think, and review the constraint layout because it gives you a lot of flexibility where you place your things on the layout here. Whereas the linear layout, you are constrained to either vertically or horizontally. That's it. You cannot overlay other views on top of each other. It has to be adjacent to the other ones. Okay. So again, change the orientation to vertical. So the constraint is ideal for flexible views. And then now, what do we need? Well, we need the picture of that coffee drink. So we add the image view on the top, right here. And you can just pick any one of them, okay? It doesn't really matter. We're gonna override that anyway, but it does require that you have an image by default. So that is the one. We're gonna give an ID for this one here. We can say img drink. That is the drink ID. I'm gonna replace this. And then the name of that drink. So we do a text view. We put it right below this. And this will be the ID of txt, maybe drink name. I'll make it big. It's kind of small, so I'm going to go and search for the text size and change the text size to something like, I don't know, maybe 25 SP, okay? SP means like it's a pixel, but it's responsive. So this is the name of the coffee drink, and they add another one below it for the description. So this one here will be the size. Let's make that, I'll make it 18. And then the ID, you can, again, turn up the size up here. ID will be txt drink description. Then enter. Okay, so that is my layout. And then based on the ID, we're gonna pull that ID from the data and replace this content here dynamically. All right. So back in the code, in the drink activity file. So we got that ID of the drink we want, and they want to get the correct drink from that, right? So first, you want to load the reference to those objects. So here again, set references. Put here the image view. The image view is image view find by ID r.id.img drink. That's the image drink. Import the class. I got that one. Next, adjust the text. The next two text views. This will be the txt drink name. I use the same name. Find by ID r.id.txt drink name. You map to that, and then we'll do one more for that txt drink description. Just put ds here for now. It's too long. So txt view find by id r.id .txt drink description. Okay, so I set all my references in now. And then next is just I'm going to replace the content. These two are quite simple. We know that already. You just do set text. Okay, we do this first. It's easier. So txt drink name set text. And then where is the text coming from? Okay, text is coming from the data, the drink, right? So it'll be the drink that get drink, and then it's an array. It comes back as a list of 3 items. Which one I want to get is the one that's matching this ID here. So matching the drink ID. And then let's see, toString. Yeah, and then change it to string. Okay, I'll make it some space you can see. So I get the drinks of that ID, and then load here. I do it this way because shortcut here it may not be easier. If it's too confusing, then you can do it this way, like way up here. You could do like drink and then drink. It's equal to, you know, drink that get drinks. You load that here, and then as you can see, it's redundant, right? Because I do it again and again here. So once I do that, then over here, this part I could just do drinks of drink ID. Okay. If it's easier this way, then do it this way. So we got that one. The next will be similar. TXT description, set text, the drinks. Hold on, that's not right. No, that's just not right. Sorry, this part here is not right because the drink ID doesn't tell me anything here. I have to get the name. Okay, so drink that, yeah, get the name. This is the getter. I forgot to call that one. Okay, the getter name here is referring to these setters and getters down here. Remember, we built these setters and getters. Get name, set name, get description, and so on. That's what they're here for. Get this one, get image resources, things like that. Okay. So that's what it goes in here. Go, which drink is it? Well, the drink of this ID here, get its name, and then set it to the text. So same thing over here. Drinks of the drink ID, and then get the description. And image view is the same, right? Image view that set image resource, okay? Image resource here. This is the one we want. It's going to be coming from the drinks of the drink ID, get image resource ID. So notice that the names are really, really helpful if you name it, you know, in a very meaningful way. If you just say get ID or get this or get whatever, right? And it's harder when you have more complex data, but if you have the name exactly match what you want, you can see that the relationship between those two or three. Okay, so you can see that now those are set up, and we can run and see if this works. So let's run this. So here is the main page. Go to the drinks. I'm going to put cappuccino, and there it is. Cappuccino, the name of the cappuccino, the description here. Go back, click on the filter coffee, and there's the filter coffee image, the name of that filter coffee, and then the description, right? So if you add more stuff like calories and price or caffeine level, whatever it is, just add that to your list. Keep adding that to your list or add it to another list view or whatever. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this one. So the challenge here is, or challenges are, I hope it's not here, right? This is just building a class. Shouldn't be too much here. If you are not familiar, or if you kind of forget how to build classes and create objects, make sure we view that. But the challenges are really the adapter here, okay? You create an adapter here. Again, this is the thing you have to use the IDE to help you, and just lots of practice. And the autocomplete is extremely useful and helpful, okay? How to access, each list item through these items here is really helpful. How to get the name of each item. Going through the list view, get the name here based on that position. Okay. It'd be kind of, if you look at this, kind of very similar to Visual Basic or a C# in Visual Studio, right? Item dot, get item, and then you pass in the index. It gives you that position. You can also set item at the position that, and then you give it a new item. Okay. The intent is something we have been doing for the last 2 weeks already, so you should know that by now. This is, I'm starting activity without the for result. So that means I'm not expecting the other activity to return data back. That's why we don't use that one, and just pass and go, right? You pass and go. How do you come back is through navigations, and we'll learn how to build navigation next time. But for now, we just use the back button to go back, which is okay, but sometimes it may not be the best solution. And then we also showing, this one here has no, we're not passing any data over, right? We just load the intent based on the options clicked up here. Once we get to the category page, then the other challenge here is, again, how do you populate your items here through from the source? Okay, our view did not have anything, right? It just have the view, and that's it. You give the ID, the width and height, that's it. The content are generated automatically in the code. So here, this function here will do that for you behind the scene. You just have to memorize, this. The type of drinks or the type of data you pass this function, this array adapter here. You must apply that one. It cannot be left blank. If it's drink, you put the drink here. Again, it's a class type. Okay, you cannot put like int an integer, right? It has to be like, if it's an integer, a list of integers, then you put integer class. Okay, and then now it doesn't match because it doesn't match here and so on. But and then this function takes just usually just these three things here: the current activity, the layout that you want to populate or render, and then the drinks here. And let's see if I do this, right? It tells you, a different layout. Right here, you have a simple drop down. You have a expandable list item view, one, expandable two. So you have a lot of built-in items already that you can use. Again, this will take time to review and research and look what they are. But so all these are available in the activity file. So built into Android. Okay. So if you were to have like a combo drop down, then you want to use this instead, and not the list. But ours is just a simple single list, so that's the one. And then the third argument is the data you pass to. Okay. And the data here has to be an array. Okay, that's why it's an array of objects. Then this part again, just same as before. Just listener, available based on the views that you choose. List view will have this. Also, I think on the spinner, same thing. The checkbox has its own item check listener button. It's very familiar. Set on click, right? Listener, and then and so on. Yeah, so those are the major topics in this unit, this section. Is really how do you pass data from source to view. Okay, are there any questions or anything you wanted to ask or review before we call it a night today? If there's anything that you need me to review from last week's topics, like the different views, let me know. Okay. What I did not mention was that like, for example, if I go here, the constraint view is a default. Okay, usually it's a default. In the past, the older version does not have constraint view by default, and you have to import that in. But it's already here. So just a really quick review is that when you click add something to the item here, right? And you can resize this to you want. As you can see, I can drop anywhere I want. But the list view, it's always snaps to the top, right? Or the left, and then you go right or go down based on the orientation here. This constraint doesn't really care about that. However, you do have to tie this to lock this in position to somewhere else. If you leave it here, okay, then that means I have to lock this in from the top to the bottom. So this, circular item here means you have to drag this out and lock it to the top of the edge. They will stay here, wherever you put here. Okay, if I don't, so that means it will snap to this place. It's locked into the top view. So if I don't do that, if I click and delete that, if I do from the bottom instead, so it would look at the bottom and then how far up I need to go. Okay, so give you that flexibility. If you want to lock in that place, make sure it always stays here, that you put both places. So it will stay here in the center. It doesn't matter how you stretch the view is, it's going to be locked in here. It's like you tie two strings to that item, it's locked in place. And then now, because you did not lock the left and right, by default, it's going to go to the left by default. It's going to be left justified, top justified, top to the top, if you don't lock these in. So if you want to put it right in the center here, you have to put, okay, it's going to be here, locked here, also lock on this side. Okay, so if you want to be right in the center, you click on this icon here, and then under the layout, you see this little item here tells you the constraint you can set on each side. This little bar down here is just 50 here. It just means the percentage between the left corner to the right corner over here. Where is this center item here? If you want to be exactly center, then it should say 50. If you drag it over to the right side, you can see it drops along with it. How far do you go based on percentage? Okay. And you can drag it here, or you can see up here the constraint horizontal. You can change these to numbers as well. If you want to go to exactly the center, again, if you double click on it, it will snap right to the center for you. So now this one is locked in here. And if I drag another one, put it here. Now, what about this one here, right? Where do you want to show this, display this? If I'm gonna put it right here, same thing, I have to lock this in. And if you want this to be related to constraint to another item here, then you would do, okay, instead of going all the way to the bottom, I'm gonna lock to this item here. Once you do that, that means I have a constraint, it's an invisible line here. I cannot pass that. So if you try to drag it down, it won't let you go. It's locked into this place here. Okay, so just a really neat way to organize your layout. And yeah, play with it. And so if you have some apps that have images or graphics or text all over the place in their own position, then this is the way to go. But of course, you can always do nested view as well. Okay, you can nest like maybe the linear layout is the main layout, and then inside that one I could have a constraint layout, right? And so on. So I could do that. So if you go to layout, you can see here, I can add a linear layout right in here. This is the linear layout. It's nested inside the constraint layout over here, you can see. And then in this layout, I can add more content in there. Maybe these will all be snapped to linear layout. Right? So these are constrained to this linear layout here. So it has its own layout, but it's nested to inside the constraint layout. So I can still move this around. But its internal layout has its own layout constraint. Now you can nest as deep as you want, but it's not ideal sometimes because the more nesting you have, the slower the components are loaded and the slower your program. Okay, so it's not really ideal this way. If you have to do it this way, then it's preferred to have the constraint layout and then move this around, so you don't have too many layers inside. Okay, from a performance standpoint. But if you just like few items, yeah, definitely really helpful to do up your file. But also a lot of things to consider. So for example, if I run this now, I'll show you one more thing before you go. Okay, so here, as you can see, if I go to the food, right, it's all messed up, right? This one's okay because I locked in to the list view and it's stretched all the way across. The button, as you can see, the button here, it stays in the center. But this one here, it looks okay in my layout because I did not attach on the left and right. As you can see, it's automatically attached to the left screen here. That's the default. If you don't lock this in, it will go to the left screen. This one, I locked in all corners, so it's stuck here. Now, what happens when you rotate this? Right? See that you rotate and then things change? You have to take that into consideration too. So now see my buttons still stay in the center because I locked those in, And it doesn't matter which orientation I switch, it's going to be in the center. So that's good. But the other two, I did not set that in there. So again, when I set this orientation, it's going to be to the left. This is also to the left because I have more spaces over here now. So those things also have to be considered when you build an app for mobile devices. So there's a lot of things. And sometimes a different view, you might have to readjust the position of these buttons, these tags based on the orientation as well. Because if I have a lot of buttons here, this vertical view might be fine. I can see all my buttons. But when I rotate, I'm not going to be able to see all like 20 buttons or 10 buttons here. So if that's the case, you have to think different way. If the orientation changes, there's a way to do that. So you can check the orientation. If it's horizontal, then do this. Otherwise, do the other way. So you can rearrange your buttons based on the orientation, or maybe, go to that sandwich menu on the left bar or something. Okay. So those are just things that to think about. Maybe we'll see if we have time, maybe in the future. We'll see if we have time to cover that. But anyways, so that's all I have, and I'm still working on the assignment. I should have that out by tomorrow, maybe tomorrow evening. But it will be very similar to what we covered today. Okay, just a list view, how you generate those views and add it to the views, and then pass data over to another view, and then load some content to the list view using dynamic data.